Today, we're going to be talking about mental health awareness and resilience building. So I have one question for all of you. Just very quickly, if you can drop it into the chat box as I'm speaking. Tell me, what does mental health mean to you? In a sentence, maybe just in one word, one sentence, anything. Just drop it off into the chat box. So at least we get to talk to each other that way, because I'm going to be doing a lot of the talking with the panelists and we're not going to hear from you. So we'd love to hear your opinion. Again, please remember, this is a very chilled down chat today we're having. So there is no steadfast rule that it's only us talking. So we'd love to hear your opinion. We'd love to hear what you have to say about the topic. So yes, in the chat box right there at the bottom, please tell me, what does mental health mean to you? So let me give you an idea or a definition of what it is. So mental health apparently includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we feel, we think, we act, determines how we handle stress, how we relate to others, how we make choices in our lives. And mental health is very important at every stage in our lives. So you have mental health when you're in your childhood, in your adolescence, and eventually in adulthood. So it cuts across the entire spectrum of our lives. So the question is, how are we dealing with this? How aware is this particular topic out there? And does it still actually cause a lot of taboo or stigmatization? So allow me to introduce our guest and our panelist who's going to be joining us today. So let's start with Dr. Andrew Mohan Raj, who is here with us. He is our very first guest who will be talking to us. Professor Adjunct Dato Dr. Andrew Mohan Raj Chandrasekharan is actually the president of the Malaysian Mental Health Association and policy advisor to the Green Ribbon Group Malaysia. He has extensive work he's done over the years in mental health area works, and also he is actually dealing at the moment with that particular issue under his own organization. Next up, we have Dina Nadzin. Dina is one of our celebrity supporters who's here with us. Dina, terima kasih banyak-banyak because you're with us. Do tell me if your camera is on, Dina, because I can't seem to see you on my screen. But it's lovely to have you here. Thank you. So Dina, for those of you who are not aware, is a very, very enterprising young lady. I've known her for years, very bubbly, very passionate about what she does. And Dina has been in the entertainment industry for 14 years. She wears many hats. A professional singer, she's an actress, she's an entrepreneur. She also is a host, a TV host, and she's won many awards in her own by her profession itself. So Dina, terima kasih. Thank you very much for joining us. Next up, we have Naz Rahman, who's the other celebrity on board. Naz, thank you very much for joining us. Terima kasih, everyone. It's lovely to have these two celebrities joining us because of the support they're giving us. Naz, of course, has had a career spanning 20 years. He is the host of Jalan Jalan Cari Makan. I think if you guys have watched it on TV, that's the Malaysia's leading food TV show. The one thing about me and Naz is I'm very jealous because, you know, how does he manage to maintain that figure while he's doing a food review show? I wonder. So yes, Naz, thank you. Naz is also a professional MC, actor, media trainer, and a doting father to 3. He will share with us some of his stories later. Next up, we actually have Ms. Laika Lucerna. Laika hails from Philippines, and she is a certified social worker and specialist in women and child protection. She's also co-authored a book titled Setting Up a COVID-19 Mental Health Response Strategy Among Local Government Units. So Laika, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Philippines. Thank you. Next up, we have our final panelist for today, Ms. Bhavani Rajendran. Bhavani is a clinical psychologist by profession. She's working with us in MSF Malaysia, in Butterworth actually, up north. And one thing I note about Bhavani is that she gets highly excited when we talk about mental health issues. That is her forte. So she's very excited to share her stories as well as her experience and of course her views on the topic that we have today. So before we jump into the conversations and I pull in my first question with our panelists, we do have 2 videos we want to share with you. What we've done is we've actually reached out to the public and we've asked them to weigh in on the topic itself. What do you think about mental health? So we're going to listen from 2 of them. Take it away.
mental health to me is the second half of taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of yourself the right way if you only prioritize physical well-being. And putting mental health first is a holistic way of addressing our overall wellness and creating a path to a healthier mind and body.
Mental health to me is as important as taking care of your daily well-being as your overall body, because without having a stable mind, you would not be able to function on a day-to-day basis at your optimum level. So we should put as much importance that we put for to feed our body, to also feed our mind and keep it healthy at all times.
All right, so we heard the two of them and what they thought about mental health. So I'm going to start the conversation off, but before I do, once again, to all of you who are with us, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop it off into the chat box, or as we go along in the conversation, feel free to turn your mic on, raise your hand, and we will unmute you, and you'll be able to ask directly to the panelists any question you have. So I'm going to start off with Dr. Andrew. Doc, this coming to you now, as we heard what it is, how important mental health is from two of the people who just weighed in on it. One of the questions I have to ask you is, I'm going to just start you off with what is going on in the country at the moment. We are all just literally recovering from COVID-19. We've had a harsh 1.5 year or 1.5 years of COVID-19 where it's literally taken a toll on all of us. So right now, the country is slowly on a period of recovery. And we can see businesses opening. We can see that people are starting to feel a bit of normalcy in their lives. Schools are opening again, so children are able to go back into school life. Not all, but at least some parts of the country where the schools are open. And children are feeling a certain amount of normalcy by understanding what school life is. So initially, about a year ago, you would find mental health topics everywhere. Everyone talks about it. It's in the papers, it's in your magazines, it's on radio talk shows, it's everywhere. Why? Because it was a very heavy topic for a lot of people. However, now that the times are slowly changing, what we see is that you probably see there's a attitude of sweeping mental health under the carpet. Nobody seems to want to talk about it. Nobody seems to be addressing it anymore. And this should not be so, because it is a very pertinent topic to all of us. I'd like to start off by asking your opinion on this matter, Doc. What would you be able to weigh in on this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Annie, and thank you for that lovely introduction earlier, and those videos that are very inspiring to watch and to learn about the work that MSF does all over the world. So yeah, coming to your question, now I'm not really sure that things are being swept under the carpet. I mean, although there's been not much discussion, heated discussions about mental health issues like we saw earlier. And as we, progress towards an endemic stage and then achieve this, what is said to be the new normal, I really hope in some ways the new normal doesn't resemble the old normal, or getting back to the old ways, in which where, as mental health issues were really relegated to the, back burners. So in that sense, I think as we approach this new normal, we will for a long time be still grappling with some mental health issues here. That's not going to go away. And therefore it would necessitate us to keep the conversation going. But I do agree with you, somehow things have quietened down a bit. And I think all of us must make sure that the conversation remains and continues, for the simple reason that we know that what appears to be settling down can actually be a period, a lull period in which, we don't see things very obviously, but there are certain psychological and psychiatric conditions that will, become more prominent in terms of its symptoms much later. We know for sure that many of our frontliners, not just the medical frontliners, but all other frontliners also have been put in a very extraordinary situation where, you know, they have had to unfortunately bear very big, significant psychological burden. In many situations, they have been everything to the dying person, to the, you know, not only as the medical interventionist, but also family member holding the hand of a dying person. These things have never happened before in any other situation, even in any other disasters. But this was so peculiar, you know, and it was really very heartbreaking to note and to even see what our medical as well as other frontliners went through. Now, I'm a bit worried about these people because while it might appear as though things are back to normal for them and they're recovering, or then you and I know how that PTSD can, you know, can emerge much later. And you know, and that's, I mean, basically our people have gone, and this is to quote the words of our Minister for Health, Honorable Khairi Jamaluddin, who said that the frontliners are virtually, you know, they should be looked upon as soldiers who have gone to a war.
That's very
and basically
true.
that's what it is. It was a war, and we will see the symptoms coming up much later. And so for that purpose, that's one of the reasons why we must keep the conversation going on as well. And also, you know, the fact that while you said that things are getting back to normal and people are looking forward to going back to schools and universities, and I've come across many cases. In fact, I've received reports from public universities that, you know, students are a little bit anxious about returning.
Oh, yes.
The universities, they're afraid to get into public transport and going back to dorms and hostels and things like that. Many of our, you know, the workforce working from home have adapted to a certain routine of working from home. And I think there's a lot of anxiety, you know, with them wanting to go back to the workplace, and the new workplace having a new kind of a, you know, infrastructure in the workplace. Probably you're going to sit far apart from one another. And then there's the worry of contracting COVID in the workplace. There's a great deal of anxiety in that as well. So these things are going to go on for a long period of time, you know, and the fact that we have had, you know, unfortunately in Malaysia, we have seen a spike in the cases of suicide during the pandemic. And of course, there's a lot of theories behind it, and undoubtedly a number of them would have been associated with the challenges of the pandemic, the financial challenges, the potential of losing jobs and losing income and things like that. But there's another element to this also that might not have been so prominent, is the fact that during this period, many of the suicides were really as a result of people with chronic mental illness relapsing during that period, simply because they didn't have access to healthcare at that time, because there were no family members. The caregivers were preoccupied with so many things, and they couldn't, you know, that there was the MCO and things like that. So many of the suicides that we saw were really people who had pre-existing depression and pre-existing chronic, you know, psychotic illness and things like that, who actually attempted suicide. So these, this also demonstrated to us of how a solid support system needs to be put in place. And I'm glad to say that while I agree with you, generally the conversation seems to be a little bit dampened these days. People don't seem to talk so much about it. And that whole hype about this, you know, there's a very exciting time. And I thought that, wow, finally mental health, conversations on mental health have become mainstream. That hasn't been, but having said that, as president of the Malaysian Mental Health Association, I work closely with you know, various stakeholders here, including the government and including the present Minister for Health and the Ministry for Health. I also see on the quiet, which might not be very apparent, that some of the stakeholders have decided that this is a wonderful opportunity for us to up the conversations on mental health and put in place some sort of sustainable intervention to address long-term issues of, you know, this mental health issues. And Yeah, and that also, and I must say there are also some moves, not only when, we've spoken about budget, and, of the overall budgetary allocation for health. And this is a universal phenomenon. We're
Yeah.
not just talking
Yeah.
about Malaysia, all over the world. We know that mental health is a little bit, not very prioritized. Even the way we design our hospitals, our infrastructure, and this is again in many of the places that I've worked in many countries in the region, including the Philippines and Indonesia, that's you mentioned, and it's clear. Even if you went to any of our hospitals, the government hospitals, and if you didn't know where the psychiatric ward was, if you wanted to visit anyone, and you'd ask the security guard, then he'll say, "I just keep walking straight," and then you'll see the mortuary. Then after that, you'll probably see a rubbish dump where the clinical wastes are dumped. Then subsequently, you'll see a building, and that's the psychiatric ward.
So there you go. That's
yeah,
where the important
yeah, exactly. So that is how in everything it was clearly demonstrated, how
I'm very happy that you spoke about. I'm very happy you spoke about your PTSD. That one caught me. I'm very happy you said that, because I actually want to find out a little bit about what it takes to, when we talk about long-term effects. Again, yes, we are all going through long-term effects. Bhavani, maybe you can weigh in on this one. What do you think maybe are the long-term effects when Doc was talking about PTSD? That people are going to go through PTSD. People are going to not understand that particular long-term effect. Like, people think it's just normal. We are behaving normally, like as if nothing happened, and yet we have these SOPs and everything that we need to look into. So, what are the struggles that people will go through, public would go through, when it comes to re-socializing, getting themselves back into society? How difficult is it going to be for all of us? While we all think it's just no problem, but can we just address that issue? Like, there is a problem and we need to talk about it.
Okay. So after months of going through the lockdown, I think it's in what felt like almost a year and even longer, many people would have lived through all kinds of losses and stresses, right? In terms of relationship, financial hardships, loss of businesses. So from the research that we know, based on natural disasters, at least, if those can serve as a guide, as a result of the current pandemic, we can estimate that around 10% of people will develop severe psychological problems, such as mood disorders, anxiety disorders, or PTSD, like what Dr. Andrew has said. But it could be much higher, because unlike all the other epidemics that we've had, the pandemic is very different in the sense that it affected everyone. Even if we were not ill with COVID, we know someone who was affected by it, or we might still have our health, but our mental health is affected, or our livelihood was affected. So definitely, because of the long spread of the lockdown, it would affect our mental health. What we would see would be the pandemic itself would actually exacerbate the pre-existing mental health conditions, or it might initiate the mental health conditions themselves. Right, because of the conditions in which we live, our usual ways of coping, like going out, our usual structure, were all kind of taken away from us.
Yeah.
So even that period of lockdown was very difficult for people, and even like quarantine is even more difficult, and isolation. So in the studies that I've managed to read up on, like based on SARS, for example, they found that of those who survived, this was just based on about 70 people who survived SARS, they found that about 44% developed PTSD. So even after they recovered, they still have the symptoms persisting in it. And it tended to be more severe among people who had higher threats to their life as they were struggling through or recovering from the illness. They had low social support. Yeah, and maybe they know other people, maybe close to them, relatives who suffered or maybe died also from the illness. So if we could use the past studies from other situations and we draw from it, it is possible that we are also going to see the same. And there's evidence also from China at the onset of the pandemic last year. There was an increase in general mental health problems, situation issues like anxiety and depression.
Okay.
Of course, like what Dr. Andrew said, it affected also our frontline healthcare workers. Yeah. Um, so yeah, definitely. And some of us will try to resume our normal lifestyle.
Yeah.
And some of us will still have that sense of anxiety that's still there. And like what Dr. Andrew also said, something like PTSD or any anxiety-related kind of presentations, it might not appear immediately.
Sure.
But that also means that because it does not appear immediately, that we still have time. There are still things that we can do to cope, to bolster ourselves against this, consequences.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are many things that we could still do to help ourselves, to like strengthen and build up our mental health.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you're also, you would agree if I say that, you don't have to be having PTSD, you don't have to be having a pre-existing mental health issue for you to actually go through some form of anxiety attacks or some form of anxiety at the moment.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, it's not about, having a disorder where it's definitely confirmed that, okay, you fulfill the criteria, you're diagnosed. I don't think we have to wait until we come to that point. It's about prevention.
Yeah.
Rather than always trying to find a cure for something.
Yeah.
We can find ways to prevent it from getting worse, to take care of our health. Yeah.
Bhavani, and we should not trivialize this. I mean, like I think before we started, Naz was talking to us about this, how people tend to trivialize matters. So it should not be trivialized, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely not supposed to be trivialized for sure. This is because there are many factors at play here. Like we don't know who among us might already have, genes or environmental factors, family history. And then in addition to this, you add in the pandemic to the mix. The risk factors could be higher.
Sure.
And I think part of the conversation about mental health is not just about how do we deal with issues when we feel that our mental health is deteriorating. Even when we feel we're good enough, we're doing well, we're functioning well, there are still things which we can do to maintain, to sustain that good health. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that, Bhavani, because I'm going to ask this one person who's a father of three exactly how it was for him. Because Naz, now coming to you, entrepreneur, entertainer, you're a host, you're a celebrity in your own right, but I'm quite sure the pandemic would have been really difficult for you, as it was for a lot of people out there, and especially in the industry that you are in, the entertainment industry. How did you cope? I mean, how difficult was it for you? Maybe you can share, a little bit of the stories that were of what did you do, and how was it that you coped, basically?
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Dr. Andrew. Thank you, MSF team, for having me on this platform to share something very pertinent with fellow Malaysians and those around the region, from Indonesia, from Philippines. Welcome, everyone. You said those things, entertainer, entrepreneur, celebrity status, and so on and so forth. Imagine all that being taken away from you in one fell swoop. From the moment you have something and suddenly you have nothing. And many of us were in different stages in our lives, no matter which part of the globe you're from. I was at an apex where I was rising. So career was going really, really well. We will want to transition to something else. A startup that I began about 5 years ago finally began to see fruit. And this is the year we're going to expand, not just in Malaysia, we're going to expand around the region. And all that suddenly gone in a flash.
Boom.
So I did raise some money with investors, but the bulk of the money being put into the venture was my savings for 20 years. 20 years, everything was gone. And so, despite the fact, I'm a bit like Dina. Hi, Dina. Lama tak nampak kan? I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I've always pushed forward a positive disposition. And when this happened, I did a 360, and there was a point where I was shut off from my room, in my room, just trying to figure things out. I gotta make it work. I have staff depending on me. I've got my life savings on the line. I've got everything on the line. And so in my mind, I was trying to come up with a solution. Don't disturb me, all right? I gotta find something. I gotta make this work. So I tried this, tried that, and everything just seemed to tumble like dominoes. But what I didn't realize was I was beginning to bring myself further and further away. I was actually going through depression and I didn't know it.
Right.
An entrepreneur is usually someone who stands on his own 2 feet.
Yeah.
I know no man is an island, but there's the resilience that you have.
Yes.
but it started becoming negative and I didn't even know it. I didn't have that support system. And I was raised old school, in the Asian mindset where, hey, just shake it off, lah. Come on, lah. Just stand tall, stand tough. You can do it. And only when I had this moment with my children where my son had created a planetary system with styrofoam, and he was really proud of it. And I remember that moment where I just went, will you please shut up? I'm trying to make it work,
Oh.
And I saw his face. Oh, even if I think about it, and that's when the revelation came. Something is wrong with me. Something is really wrong with me. And so my wife, who has been quiet all this time because she's been trying to be sportive, she's been going through her problems as well.
Yeah.
And that's when I felt I'm letting my family down. I'm letting my children down. And it cannot stay that way.
Yeah.
So there was a conscious effort to gotta get out of this funk, because you may have lost everything that you've built for 20 years, but you're losing what you already have, and it's even more precious than anything in this world. So apologize to my children, and I think things are getting much better now. I've accepted that this is the way it is, and it's no different from anybody else.
Yeah.
It's cause and effect, really, and it's just about how to respond to those effects in a positive manner. And I couldn't have been done if you're alone. So maybe something I want to add here: if you want to get out of a funk, if you really want to care about your mental health, you cannot be alone. You've got to have someone to bounce things off with. You've got to have that support group. And if you don't have that support group, do not be afraid to seek help. And that's basically what I did. I went out, got some help. I got some counseling, family counseling. Despite my whole body and my mind going against him, come on, you could see a psychiatrist? Are you sure about this? My wife insisted on it, and no regret. Women are always right.
You got that right.
I'm sure many here will agree.
I'm so happy that you shared that with us, Naz. Thank you so much. I'm quite sure that wouldn't have been easy for you to share with us. And to imagine, the fact that when we are going through some form of downtime, we never know whether it's depression we're going through, what is this entire scenario. And I'm quite sure you would have had a really tough time getting out of it. But the best part is that you were able to find help. And that is something that a lot of people don't get to do.
Yes, and by getting help, my family life has never been better. Our family is closer than ever. We've come up with certain mechanisms for us to stay together despite whatever happens to us, because Team Nazruddin sticks together. And that's the message I want to send up to everyone.
I am so happy for you. Really, we're all very happy for you.
Well, we're not out of the woods yet, so.
No, it's a work in progress. But the beauty is that you have your loved ones who are supporting you. And that is what we all need. When we're in a little bit of a funk, we need our loved one to support us. Doctor, I see your hand up. Give me 1 minute. I need to talk to Laika before I come to you. I'll definitely come to you in a bit. Laika, just like how Naz was talking about, what he went through in terms of having everything and suddenly 1 minute losing it. In your case, you actually work with communities in Philippines. We don't know what it's like for them, for people out there, how it is other than people in Malaysia, of course. Can you share with us maybe, how do you do in terms of how do you support, or what is the kind of help you provide for the communities and, the psychosocial kind of support that you do? Please do share that with us.
Yes, thank you, Annie. And thank you very much, Naz, for sharing that with us. That is really brave of you, and you're an inspiration. So our country, the Philippines, has been badly hit by COVID-19. And schools haven't even, I think we are trying to start going back to face-to-face classes, but we're still doing it with baby steps. And until now, we are struggling to recover. Yeah. So I was able to support people in urban poor communities who were directly affected by the virus, and also those who were indirectly affected, such as their families and our workers. So for those who were directly affected by the illness, in my experience, in the experiences that they shared with me, their anxiety arises from the possibility of infecting their loved ones. That was their main concern. Yeah, they do not want to pass on that the COVID-19 to the people dear to them. And aside from that, for the other people who were indirectly affected, they were facing mental health concerns due to social issues such as stigma, discrimination, and also economic concerns, such as losing their jobs and not having enough money to support their families, especially in these urban poor communities where they work a day at a time in order to put food on the table.
Yeah.
So that's just one day at a time for them. Yeah.
I think
I was able to support them.
Yeah.
I was able to support them as the mental health and psychosocial support provider of MSF in that urban poor community in Tondo, Manila, by listening to their thoughts and feelings and normalizing their fears and anxieties. And I also make it to a point to highlight their strengths so that they can be reminded of their capacities to get through this pandemic. Of course, that's not easy, but we really need to find our coping strategies and to revive all that we have. So one way to do this is by promoting the healthy coping strategies that they have, and also adding to that and equipping them with a few more positive coping strategies such as relaxation techniques or breathing exercises. So just the very basic ones. And of course, since mental health concerns are not solely the individual person's problem, we also try to link these people to their networks in their communities that can help them with their socioeconomic concerns. So in addition, we ensure that we remind them of their personal social resources such as their friends and then their families, who are the people that they can talk to so that they can comfort and help each other. Yeah. And apart from that, we also should not forget about what we call the shadow pandemic, because I work a lot with people who experience gender-based violence. And now we have the shadow pandemic, which is gender-based violence and the domestic abuse against women and children. And these vulnerable populations are left trapped in their homes with abusive family members. Although this takes on a different approach as it involves the safety of these victims and these survivors. But similarly, we can support them by listening to them, to their experience, and linking them with people who can assist them with their various needs.
I think when you talk about domestic violence and violence against women, that literally will take us through a whole different ballgame of conversation, because that we need to sit together and just address it in another webinar or a panel.
Definitely.
That would open
another
up,
2 hours for that.
Yes, another 2 hours. That would open up a can of worms with everyone. You know what? We would love to do that for International Women's Day next year. So yeah, for all of you, come join us at that time. We might be addressing that. Thanks a lot, Dina, I'm coming to you now. I know you've been quiet on the side. Thanks for joining us. I know you've been a really busy person, Dina. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. You guys can see me, right? You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, yes. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I just need to ask now, Naz shared his point of, what he went through. And I'm quite sure for you, being in the entertainment industry as well, in entertainment line, you have had your share of a lot of problems that hit you, in various areas. I'm not going to name them at the moment because I'm going to leave you to tell us whether you're comfortable talking about it. But I did read a lot about it, and I'm quite sure it was not easy for you to go through this. Could you just maybe take us through maybe the whole of last year? What was it like going through COVID? For Naz, it was you had everything and then you lost it in a glimpse of an eye, and I can relate to that. For you, how was it, Dina?
First and foremost, thank you for having me today. And again, Naz, hi, I miss you too. Kenapa you make me cry on a Saturday?
You made everybody cry on the Saturday.
I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. It just came
out. But the pandemic has been very tough. It has been very, very tough. For me personally, I became exactly the opposite of Naz. I became Naz was panicking and overthinking everything. I was just a bit too lazy for everything. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to because I still have my radio. I still have my radio job. Thank God for that. So I was still very active on radio, and I had a setup at home. But that one really made me into the person that I am not. A lot of people know me. I run here, I run there, I do this, I do that. I sing, I act, I do musicals, and if I don't do all these things, I'll go hang out with friends. I keep a very I try to keep a very active lifestyle.
Keep yourself busy, basically.
I keep myself busy. Yala, single kan?
Yeah.
But
between you and Naz, okay? You're single and he's not.
Yeah, exactly. We're the opposite. But what I do agree with Naz is you go out of your norm. You don't do things the way that you do things anymore. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to even get out of my pajamas. I did not even want to get out of my pajamas. I didn't want to take a shower. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to do anything. It was just, I will sleep whenever I want to sleep. I will just go on air whenever I want to go on air. And I will just wake up whenever I want to wake up. And that was very unhealthy for me. I put on so much weight. I felt really bad about myself. And now that everything is starting again, I become a person that, who is this person? Why is she not taking care of herself? So I'm in that way, because I still had work. Alhamdulillah, I still had work. But I became this person that I'm not proud of. So for me, that one is also challenging. And other than that, I keep seeing friends that are like Naz. That's why that when he told us what he was going through, I felt very close to what he was saying, because a lot of my friends around me have lost their lives, have lost the person that they are, lost jobs, and them being very free, very, very bubbly, suddenly go into depression. So that's very painful for me to see. So for me, it's more about it's very personal in a sense where I tak boleh tengok, I cannot see my friends like that and the person that I became. So I became a totally different person. Work, alhamdulillah, has been the same, but it's just my personal being is not, something like that.
All right. Interesting that you have, sort of retreated into yourself, that, you were comfortable in your own skin in such a way that, you were saying that you just go to work when you want to, walk around in your jammies, and you just couldn't be bothered about anything. Life just, that's it. That's how you felt.
Yes, exactly.
That's how you are.
Exactly how I felt. It was just static. We were just on pause, and I was looking forward to nothing. There was nothing to look forward to. There's nothing that I wanted to achieve. I didn't want to go exercise because what's the point? I felt like it was like that. It was like, for me, like, what's the point of doing anything? You're just going to stay home. You're not going to see anybody. So I'm not going to wear makeup, to the extent that I forgot how to put on my mascara even.
Okay, that is a danger mode for women, okay?
Yes, it's very dangerous.
But you still cantik, don't worry, you still cantik. Okay?
Right, now, Dina, thank you so much for sharing that. I need to take that now and go back to Bhavani. Bhavani, now, this is interesting. Dina was saying how she's comfortable, just being in a jammies, just being how she is. And is that, Dina, and I hope you don't mind me asking this to Bhavani, is that in some form how people are going to be dealing with when it comes to maybe, downtime, depression, or is that something related? I mean, is that what Dina went through? And is
go ask. I also want to know.
You obviously didn't talk to anyone about it.
No, too lazy.
Okay, too lazy. There you go. That's the key word. I'm too lazy.
Okay. That's a good question and really interesting questions. And thanks, Dina, for sharing about that very openly with us. Yeah. Just to be clear, I'm not making a diagnosis. We don't make diagnoses just like this. I guess for a proper assessment, it's still best to see a mental health professional for one-on-one consultations. But it does remind me of something interesting, Dina, when you said what you experienced was like the opposite of Naz. Naz was kind of like, all around the place, thinking about things. Whereas for you, it's like you went into this downtime kind of mode. So it's very much related to our fight or flight stress response. So when our stress response gets activated, what gets activated is basically fight, flight, or freeze. So some of us might flight, which means run away or to escape or to, we engage in some avoidant behaviors. And some of us might fight. So we might be a little bit more like active, hyper aroused. So people can go without sleep for days. And some of us just freeze. So that's why it's hard to say, how the consequences or the impacts will look like for person to person.
Yeah.
So some of the signs that not necessarily that you're going through depression or anxiety per se, but signs that your mental health, like one's mental health is actually deteriorating or becoming a bit poorer, not your usual baseline, would certainly be changes in your sleep patterns,
right?
Changes in your appetite. It can be sudden weight gain or sudden weight loss. Can be too little sleep, too much sleep, or difficulty like staying asleep, like you're asleep but you keep waking up, for example. It could also be poor self-care, like you're not able to clean yourself, do your usual dress up, how you usually do. Concentration might be poor, you feel unmotivated, rumination, where you think about things and you feel like you can't stop thinking about things. So these are some of the psychological signs that, health is a bit poorer. You're not functioning at your best.
Yeah.
But I would like to draw to some physical symptoms, which actually could be signs that, someone's mental health could be, deteriorating, or maybe not doing so well. You could be having chest pains, breathing difficulties, body aches, headaches. And then if you go see a doctor, they can't quite figure out what is it. So this could also be indicators of high stress. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's definitely worth going to seek someone professional to speak about it, or talk to people that you trust to see what's going on. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Bhavani, because I think that's exactly what a lot of us need, and again, I'm going to come to Laika after this, but before that, Laika, I do have a very interesting question coming your way, but before that, we do have a video. Again, remember I told you we actually reached out to the public to weigh in. So we've got a video that we would like to present to you, which is again, two of our supporters from the public. Let's hear what they have to say.
Hi there. As we all know, mental health issue or illness can be physically and mentally draining a person. But there are very little awareness being raised or actions being taken, since, as we all know, it is common for some people in the society to take this issue as a small matter. They look down towards mental illnesses. So thus, I think there are a lot of awareness that needs to be raised for mental health, because it can be fatal.
Okay, hi. To me, mental health is very important because it can cost your life. So if you have depression or feeling stress, better seek for professional advice, because you never know how serious your mental health is. All right, so do me a favor, please do visit someone that can help you. All right, or even talk to your friend. Okay.
All right. So seek help, talk to people, do something about it. Laika, I'm coming to you with this one. I'm quite sure for a lot of us out there, while we're getting back into the normalcy of life and we are really looking forward to getting back into, the little nitty-gritties of life and meeting friends and everything, there have been cases where people are going through issues. However, a lot of them do not seek help. So why is there a reluctance to seek help, for instance? I mean, why does that happen? Is it because of a stigma? What causes it?
Yeah, so there's so many factors why, like so many barriers to mental health care, no? But I will share some, maybe two reasons on this. So in our country, we are highly religious. And so mental health is still highly stigmatized, and a lot of people, especially older adults, still believe that it's all in your head. And this is advantageous to younger people because it's the older adults who take care of the younger generations.
Yeah.
And it's the older adults who will pay for psychological services, you know. So if they don't believe in it, then our younger people will have a difficult time getting the services.
Right.
And like what I've said, since we are a highly religious country, we would also get comments from older populations that mental health is caused by lack of praying and engaging in church activities. So that makes the other people dealing with mental health issues feel bad and discouraged to talk about it and to seek help. And another reason why people don't seek professional help, even if they would want to, is because it's still not considered as a health concern, which is why it is not widely available in the primary health care, which is a very big barrier. So primary health care is what is available in our communities. And this is very important because when it becomes more of, because then if it's not available in the primary healthcare, then it becomes more of a privilege to access mental health services than a right to healthcare. We have very limited free mental health services to the populations, and public facilities are usually swamped with calls for help. And mental
That sounds
health
familiar.
services, yeah.
That sounds familiar to our country. I think doctor can attest to that. We go through the same thing in Malaysia. Wow, you having these problems, you don't pray enough. Kena semayang, pergi semayang sekarang. Ambil air semayang, pergi semayang sekarang.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
have that.
and
Betul.
It cuts across everywhere.
Yes.
It cuts across all communities in Malaysia. You know, go and pray. You'd feel better when you pray. I mean, yes, we would feel better when you pray, but that is not the solution, is it? I mean, yes, talking to God is beautiful, and it is a personal matter between any human being. But that is not exactly the ultimate solution of what we need to do when it comes to our mental issues, because people don't want to talk about it. And more so youngsters, it's even concerning if the youngsters are not the one that's talking about it. I mean, yes, you're right, like the older generation, they have a preconceived idea. I can tell you my dad, I mean, thank God he's not on this chat group right now and not in this webinar. If he was, he would kill me, because my dad will say this to me: it's all in your mind. It's all in your mind. You know, even if I say something, it's unfortunately, this is what we grew up with. You know, it's all up here, nothing.
Yeah, just be happy.
Yes, just exactly. Thanks, Laika. Naz, I know you need to leave soon, so I'm going to just very quickly. Now, Naz, I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Naz has to leave us because this man is a busy man, and we thank him very much for coming today. But
I'll share as much as I can. No worry.
One last question to you before you leave, Naz. You are like a beacon to a lot of youngsters out there. You're a beacon of inspiration, beacon of hope. You do inspire people with what you have done and what you're doing currently in the shows that you run. Can you maybe just, before you leave, give a word of advice to the youngsters, not only the youngsters, everyone from all walks of life, just a simple word of advice from what you have gone through.
Thanks for the opportunity, Annie. Okay, so what I'd like to share here is, first of all, touching on the PTSD that Bawani's mentioned, Dr. Andrews mentioned, and Laika's mentioned as well. The COVID is not going to go away just like that. When we see the latest news blurb, 22% increase in COVID-19 hospitalization cases, stage 4, stage 5 in Klang Valley alone. When I read that, I felt that tightening in my chest. I felt my pulse go higher. I felt a little sweat coming down and go. I started going, oh my God, do I have enough test kits? Do I have enough? That's the PTSD talking, yeah? That's the PTSD talking. So after getting some help, I was also of the old school, don't pray enough. So I pray the best as I can 5 times a day. And if that's not enough, I definitely need to seek help, and so should you. How religious you are has nothing to do with the condition of your mind and what you're going through right now. What I'd like to share with everyone is to sort of get everyone on the right track. I guess in the Philippines, the same problem. So I assume in the whole region, we are going through the same problem of invalidating another person's pain. And I cannot begin to tell you how wrong that is.
Yes.
You know, right now, like for example, we've heard Dina's story, you heard my story. I know maybe some people go, hey, see, Naz has gone through it worse. Come on, you buck up. It's not right. It's not fair at all to put down another person's thoughts, feelings, and pain, because I mean we all have different standards of living, different economic sectors, but the pain of losing something stays the same. The pain of not knowing what to do stays the same. So if I were to share anything at all, please stop spreading the invalidation. If someone comes up to you and says, hey man, you know, I need to talk, listen. It doesn't cost you anything to listen. You know, if I had someone like that earlier on, maybe I could have gone on a bit better, but I did get that help. And now I I commit myself to spreading this awareness. So I've got another 2 sessions happening this week alone, just on mental health. I'm trying to turn it around positively. Whatever I do, it's not about income, it's not about money, it's about value. It's about giving value to people out there. And if the value is there, your life will sort itself out. You know, if you're a religious person, have faith that if you do things positively and you affect people around your life in a positive manner, it comes back to you. Believe me, lillahi ta'ala, it will come back to you. Wallahi. Last but not least, for those of you who are going through a hard time, um, a lot of people are going through the same thing. It's just about, you know, if you're in a dark place, reach out your hand. You will touch the fingers of someone reaching out to you. Hold those hands together, you know, shoulder to shoulder. We Malays like to say, rapatkan saf, you know, shoulder to shoulder, support each other, and we will get through this together. We will. We are resilient. Humanity is resilient. So continue believing in yourself, and you will get out of this funk. That's all I have to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Naz. Thank you so much. I know you have to go, so feel free to, you know, log off if you'd like to, but thank you very much.
My humble apologies, guys. Yeah.
It's okay, don't worry. The fact that you were able to spend an hour with us, that was very, very meaningful.
Hopefully it makes a difference.
I'm very happy you talked about resilience, because that is where we're going right now. Because this whole panel discussion, we want to talk about raising awareness and also the resilience building that needs to come from raising this awareness and from us actually battling it.
You guys got it. You guys got it. So I'm going to take my leave now. Assalamu alaikum and thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, Naz. Have a lovely day. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, Dina.
So coming back to Bhavani, Bhavani and Laika, maybe both of you can weigh in on this. And Doc, please feel free to weigh in on this. We're talking about resilience building, and resilience building is one of the themes that we are also talking about for this particular webinar or panel discussion. We want to know, how do we, you know, build resilience despite what we're going through, despite the issues, despite the troubles, despite the trials, the challenges that we all go through. How can we now build resilience? How can we now actually bring back ourselves, you know, empower ourselves? I love using that word, because I think empower is a word everyone ought to be using. I don't know. I mean, that's personally me. And but yeah, please give me your thoughts on this. Both actually, Bhavani, Laika, and Doc, please feel free to weigh in on this.
Who would like to go first?
You start, Bhavani, and then we'll go to Doc and Laika.
Okay, sure. So the interesting thing about resilience is that the research that we know of, based on past situations, epidemics, disasters, is that they suggest that 2/3 of people will actually be resilient. So we predict that maybe you'll be similar as well to the stresses of COVID-19. I know earlier I said that around 10% of the population will develop something severe, but it's not all bad news. The good news is that people are highly resilient, and resilience is one of the most common responses that we see to, you know, crisis. So psychological resilience is about our ability, our capacity to adapt in the face of tragedy, trauma, crisis, significant stress. So essentially, it's about being able to bounce back from the challenging experiences that we had gone through. And the good news is that it's something achievable, that we can cultivate it. It's not something that you're born with and some people have it and some don't. No, all of us can do something to develop more of it in ourselves. The main thing about resilience is finding useful, positive, effective coping strategies when we are faced with risk or stress. It's about knowing that, okay, I have this toolbox, I have these things, And I'm going to engage in these things when I realize that I'm facing risk or stress. And I just want to link back to what Naz was saying about social support, that, you know, you cannot go through, I mean, it's possible, but it's very difficult to go through struggles alone, that we really do need to, if possible, to reach out. And the research on resilience actually supports this. One of the most strongly predicted, resilience is most strongly predicted by the cultivation of social support.
Right.
Yeah. So we're social creatures, and clearly this is one of the things which really help us. So I would say, and I mean, aside from the usual self-care activities like getting enough rest, sleep, eating well, movement, exercise, engage in social support, connect with the people. So in times of isolation and lockdown, I think we may not have the same luxuries of meeting up as we used to in the good old days of no distancing. But we can improvise, phone calls, video calls, or we can meet up in the great outdoors. You know, you reduce risk of transmission. And it's also a bonus that we all feel much better when we spend time in nature.
Sure.
Right? So it's important to nurture strong and meaningful relationships. Connect with the people that you trust, people you feel very comfortable with, that you can rely on. It's about doing what matters, even when the going gets, you know, very difficult, gets tough. Think about past experiences, recollect your own strengths, how you have dealt with, I don't know, situations, difficulties in the past, and realizing that we have had successes before, and now it's difficult, but it is possible to move forward. And I think it's important to try to do whatever we can to help ourselves, small steps. So if we already have good social support, then that's already a great protective factor there already. But if you feel that you feel very alone, then there's no shame to reach out, to you know, connect to people.
I'm happy you said that, Bhavani, that, you know, we need to connect to people, and social support is most important. I mean, we saw in the case of Naz, for instance, and also, well, Dina, some parts of Dina, you know, how it was difficult for them. I mean, it was like the whole world changed, but because of the support of the people around them, and we're all social creatures. We're never an island. I mean, no man is an island, as they say. You know, we're all social creatures. We need that, and that is what is very important. Correct me if I'm wrong. When we talk about mental health issues, when we talk about challenges we're facing, again, we may not know, but being with someone, talking to someone, just reaching out your hand and saying, I need help, is very important.
Yeah. And there's a flip side to that I would like to add, since we're talking about building and developing resilience. There's also research which indicates that pro-social behavior, which essentially means engaging in activities, acts, which is for the welfare of others, doing good, essentially. Doing those things actually promote resilience in ourselves. So you do good, it benefits someone else, but it also has protective effect on our own psychological well-being. So I'm just reminded about, you know, how in the whole past almost 2 years now, we've had movements about people looking out for each other, like hashtag Kita Jaga Kita, various soup kitchens, and people are mobilizing and looking out for each other. So even if, say, I mean, everyone had different levels of struggles, like we can't compare exactly. But if we're in a position where we could do something, we could offer something to someone else, just the act of help, providing the assistance and help to someone else, it also does something for us. It puts us in a state where we have a sense of purpose, meaning, a sense of control, and all those things actually contribute to resilience as well.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. That is true. I do agree with you. I mean, when you actually put a smile, and then this has been my motto since I was young, you know, you put a smile on another person's face, that literally makes you feel good. Not because you did something good to another human being, but because you were able to contribute to that person's smile.
Correct. And probably neurotransmitters doing their job as well, the brain reward level.
Yeah. Laika, I know we lost you for a minute then. I know you said you had connection problems. So I'm
sorry.
It's okay. Maybe you can just weigh in on this in terms of, you know, when we talk about resilience in Philippines itself, with the kind of work that you have done, maybe you can just, pull that in and tell us how has it been, and what would you say that our participants today, for instance, they are here with us, listening to the conversation. So what can they take back when we talk about building resilience?
All right. So I'm not sure if this has already been mentioned, no, since I was out for a while there. But what I always say to the people who I talk to, and that seem to touch them truly, is that we need to practice self-compassion. So we really need, let's be kind to ourselves. Let's give ourselves a chance to feel all these unpleasant emotions, because they are normal.
Yeah.
They are normal, especially in times like this when everything is abnormal and all these situations are not really going our way. Yes. So let's just be kind to ourselves, and let's be patient to ourselves as well. Of course, we can talk to people, we can go to counseling, and it's a process. It will not just happen in one snap. So let's also be let's always practice that. And what's very important is to not label ourselves. No, let's avoid labeling ourselves as
so true.
What are the labels that we usually would say? Maybe we label ourselves as we are not motivated, so that's very judgmental onto ourselves.
Yeah.
So let's try to avoid that and practice more self-compassion, because self-compassion is related to our acceptance of ourselves and our situation, and that can really build our resilience.
Wonderful. I am so happy you said self-compassion. That's beautiful. Very true. I think we are our own worst critics. Like, we don't need another person to say that to us. We seem to be doing that very well to ourselves. And that takes me to Dr. Andrew. Under MMHA right now, I mean, month of October is a month also for the World Mental Health Day. So it's a recognition of recognizing the fact that, mental health is an issue we need to talk about. So when we talk about being critical to ourselves, when we talk about trying to better ourselves by trying to be better human beings, so a lot of people would think, oh, like, yes, I am better, I'm trying to make the world a better place by doing this kind of a work, which is so wrong, because we seem to be very critical of what we're doing. So under MMHA, maybe you can share with us, are there any kind of activities that, will be either now or maybe in the next few months that MMHA is doing, where you're involving the public or actually spreading awareness? Maybe just take us through a little bit, Doc. You're on mic, mute, sorry. You're muted.
Thank you very much for that. But before I go on to the activities of MMHA, I seek your indulgence in giving me a couple of minutes to add on the topic of resilience that
go ahead.
Both
I'm glad you're
Bhavani
coming
and
in.
mentioned earlier. And I'm so glad, I mean, they spoke in a very, at a personal level, at what an individual can do, what we all can do as individuals and members of society. And that's fantastic. I think Bhavani also spoke about and said rightly that most people will recover. That's good. And she used the term bounce back, and which is the norm. I agree with her. And in my mind, it also refers to how quickly we can bounce back from difficulties. And when you look at it from a macro perspective, what societies, what governments can do, what organizations can do, I think it's important to recognize that there are, promoting factors for resilience, and what are the factors that would hinder resilience as a whole in a community. And for sure, just now, Dina has spoken about it. Naz also spoke about how stigma and poor understanding of mental illness amongst ourselves, in our own families. Some, we have very archaic views about mental health issues. So all this can be hindering factors for sure. And then there's also a great deal of anxiety about what this virus is all about, whether we're going to get reinfected, do we need a booster dose, and how does that work? And, how do we continue with our social distance? All these are anxiety that can somehow also affect our resilience. And I guess this is where proper information comes into the picture, and the roles of government and other bodies to ensure people have access to the right information rather than being influenced by all sorts of other fake news and things like that we are susceptible to. So these are factors that can actually hinder resilience as a society as a whole. And of course, the other things that can promote that, on the other hand, greater understanding of mental illness. Now there's accessibility of health care, and this is happening. Many NGOs have been set up offering this kind of services, either through helplines and other counseling services, and also providing opportunities. Just now Bhavani spoke about Kita the Jaga Kita. So there are a lot of opportunities as well, people coming out and saying, you know what, there are jobs available for you. There might be a different sort of job, but still don't worry, people care for each other, so that good things about our goodness, intrinsic goodness of human beings have come out as well. So all this is also will help in promoting resilience. So I've done with my 5 minutes there, I think. So I'll come to my mental health, or rather MMHA, and what we do. So, some of the activities here clearly, it's been hindered again because of the COVID, and that's one thing. And plus we have moved from our own building, old building, which fortunately we have found some money to rebuild that place because it looked really horrible. So then, and we couldn't really do much. But so we are rebuilding, and therefore we've moved to a new place. So we are trying to come back to our counseling services that we used to have, face-to-face counseling. So that's there as well. But I would just like to talk about two other programs that we have. That is, one is a suicide prevention training program that we have initiated recently. It's a 2-hour training program. And I don't like to call it a training program because it sounds a little bit pompous that within 2 hours you can train somebody to prevent suicide in another person. It's clearly not possible. But so we called it a conversation on suicide. It's intended to reach out to community leaders like, Rukun Tetangga, neighborhood leaders,
Neighborhood watch,
watch, and also committee members of high-rise buildings and universities and things like that. So we just want to talk about what suicide is. It's a free program, and people can sign up for this and basically empower them. You used the word empower just now. And to empower community leaders to be able to reach out to those whom they suspect to have some suicidal thoughts, and basically giving them the ability, some tips on how to establish rapport, to connect with people, to show people that they are there for them. And the most important thing is to be aware of the resources available for people who might be suicidal. So that's one program. And then the ongoing thing is the mental health first aid course that we run. It's a franchise program from Australia, but we've adapted it for local needs. And this is again, it's a longer, more intensive program that we are running, and that's to mainly targeted at organizations, bigger groups, universities, school teachers, organizations, for them to have a understanding of what mental health issues are, about what is early intervention, how to detect things early, and what are the sort of interventions, appropriate interventions, and also promotion of good mental health practices and well-being in a workplace and in an environment. So these are some of the newer programs that MMHA is running. And most of our services are highly subsidized. So feel free to visit our website and reach out to us if you want to avail of our services. As well as, on the other hand, like the advertisement, or that you had a good pitch for MSF just now, saying that those who want to volunteer their services or join MSF might want to do that. So I'm also making a pitch here, minus the video, for MMHA. So do get into our website and see if you want to help us, want to join us, be partners with us, collaborate with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. That was wonderful. And no, don't worry about the pitch. We're happy that you're pitching that in. I mean, the more people know the work and services you're doing, the better for all of us, definitely. Before we've just got about 10 minutes or so before we end today's session, but don't go away. We do have a video we want to play. This is the final one that came in, and we just want you to hear from Sherlyn and what she has to say. Take it away, Sherlyn.
Mental health is important to me because without having mental health, other areas of my life will be affected as well. Being mentally healthy means that I am able to accept who I am and others for who they are and really be comfortable under my own skin.
So there you go. Really being comfortable in your own skin. I think a lot of us have that problem because we have not come to that stage of our lives where we're comfortable with who we are. I'm not talking about Dina walking around in jammies though. So, that is in a total different comfort altogether. Dina, just coming to you finally before we go into a couple of other practices that we want to share with the participants today. Very quickly, you, as I told Naz, is also a major inspiration to a lot of women out there, a lot of youngsters out there, because I mean, from the years that I've known you, by the way, I've known Dina for how long has it been?
At least 10, 12, 15 years.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
least.
15
Yeah.
years, yes.
Because the competition was about 16 years ago. So
there you go. Yeah.
There you go.
15, 16 years. And Dina has always been this very bubbly person that I know that every time I call in, she gets very passionate about issues. She dwells really deep into it. And she's always been very on the ball when it comes to these things. So Dina, being that person that I've known for years, what is that one advice you can give to our participants, as well as your admirers and your fans out there about this issue that we're talking about today? Because this is something that's very, very pertinent to even youngsters. And we're not only talking, I mean, like I said, it cuts across the entire spectrum of age.
I think the most important part is to always be honest to yourself. Always be honest. If you're going through something, do not brush it off because someone said, you're not tough enough or something like that. Always be open to talk about things. I know that's easier said than done, especially with me because I talk about everything. Annie, you know this. I talk about anything. But I'm not asking you to be me. No, I'm just asking you for your own good. Just to be open and be honest with yourself. If you're going through something, reach out to the person closest to you. It might not be a family member because I have that problem. I do not show that vulnerable part of me to my family. My family don't know that I cry at night or whatever like that. But my best friends and my manager do. Just open up, reach out to the people that is closest to you that you trust. Because at the end of the day, sometimes by voicing it out, you will feel better and you will actually realize what is going on. You just need to get it out of your chest to figure things out. But if you are going through something, number one, please reach out, and number two, please do not be your own doctor by Googling stuff. You do not tell, I'm actually going through this. Yeah, the amount of people that has been saying, I'm going through this. You're taking the topic of depression and anxiety a bit too lightly because you self-diagnose. So don't do that, because you might be saying that to a person who's actually going through it and feel that they are, that person is doing okay. How come my depression is so bad? Please do not self-diagnose, number one. Jadi siapa-siapa yang kuat Instagram kat sini, jangan tiba-tiba cakap diri sendiri depression kurang but seek for help, and at the same time it's exactly the opposite lah. If you are going through something, please be open to talk about it, please, because it's for your own good, it's for your loved ones as well, because whatever happens to you do affect the people around you, do affect the people that loves you. So I think that is what I would like to share with everybody. That's my thoughts, because we have other people's. By the way, Dr. Andrew, I think I interviewed you before.
I think you did. Yes. You did.
I think I interviewed you before for radio. Now I remember, after talking for like 1.5 hours only, I realized
Baru
now. Baru perasan. The laziness belum start lagi lah. Dia belum rajin lagi lah.
Tak apa. You're on the way. Very good.
Thanks, Dina. They're very, very apt and very well put.
Good advice. I like your advice. That's good.
Very apt and very good. Okay, to everyone, before we end today, there are two things we want to share. One is a very quick breathing exercise we want to take you through. So what you're going to see on the screen is a slide for the breathing exercise. I'm just gonna ask you to join me in this. Very simple relaxation. Bhavani and Laika, don't don't curse me on this one because it's a very simple exercise, not like the serious one you guys do it, okay? So very simple. Let's all try this, okay? We close our eyes, all right? And then you inhale deeply and slowly into your belly for 5 seconds. Let's try this. Ready? Inhale. All right. All right. 5 seconds. Inhale and slowly exhale for 5 seconds. Take it out, fully out. Take it out through your mouth. Blow it out, everyone. Blow it out. Okay. This you repeat again one more time with eyes closed. You try pulling it in. Let's take it all in. Good days. And you take it out again. Exhale for 5 seconds. Now, this is a breathing exercise we want you to try at home when things get a bit tough and things get a little down. I mean, every day can't be a happy day. So, you know, we all go through this. So please do try very light breathing relaxation exercises. Next, I want to also talk to you about a couple of tips that we have for you. For those of you who would need to, or rather would like to say, maybe reduce the stress in life. Trust me, every one of us goes through. I go through it every day, and so does Dina and Doc and Laika and Bhavani and Naz and Wendy, every one of us. So very quickly, one, value yourself. I think this was mentioned earlier, that don't criticize yourself. Don't be the worst critic of your own self. Try to value yourself. Don't always criticize. Talk to yourself with kindness, not to talk to another person. Talk to yourself with kindness. Say that you did well. If you did something beautiful, say, I did well. Acknowledge it. It is important for you to acknowledge it. Taking care of your body, that is another thing that a lot of us don't do. I guilty as charged, I have to say. Sometimes I'm too busy that I don't do that in my, on my own. So what you can do is eat nutritious meals. You can also avoid smoking. The smokers out there, I know a lot of you do. Try to avoid smoking. Drink plenty of water as much as possible. Carry one of these flasks. There you go. I have one with me all the time. Exercise helps definitely decrease depression, anxiety, and improve your mood. So try that. It really does. Exercise. You don't have to go into a gym. You don't have to go and, sign up in massive gym classes or aerobics classes. Take a walk around the block where you are. That's it. Just take a walk. If you have a pet with you, take your pet with you for a walk. And trust me, it really helps. And get enough sleep. I think Dina mentioned this. Get enough sleep as much as possible, because it is said that, when you have lack of sleep, it contributes very highly to depression, and especially to people who stay up late. Hint, hint, Dina, hint, hint. Okay. Right. Now, the next one is surround yourself with good people. I think this is very, very important. Naz also mentioned this. Keep close to family, keep close to good friends. Connection is very important, because they are the ones that are going to carry you through a troubled time anytime. So talk to people that you can trust. I think all our panelists mentioned this in all their conversations. Talk to people you can trust. Give yourself, and this is interesting. When I mean give yourself, it means volunteer your time. Try to volunteer your energy for anything. Go to, like Bhavani mentioned, go and help somebody, or go to an animal shelter, for instance. Go and help them once a week. Doesn't cost you much, but it puts a smile on another person. I have learned this personally, that you put a smile on a person, that really feels good for yourself. Next, we say learn how to deal with stress. This is not easy. I can say that firsthand, it is not easy, but you can do things like learning Tai Chi, going for a nature walk. You can try playing with your pet, do journal writing. I think journal writing is something you can try as well. And quiet your mind, try meditating. Again, Dina mentioned this, prayer. Yes, a lot of I think Naz also said, where he used to, go into meditation and prayer. That will really help you as well. So if you can quiet your mind, these things will help you a lot. Set realistic goals. Try to make sure that you decide when you want to achieve something. Set goals that are small. Don't go and say, I'm going to try doing this in the next, say, 2 weeks. It's not going to happen. Keep it short, keep it simple. Like starting to drink a lot of water. I think a lot of us stop that. So what you can do is set minimal goals. Say, in 1 week, this is X amount of liters that I'm going to be drinking in 1 week. That's it. Start with 1 week. Start with 3 days, and you see where you can go. in the next 1-2 weeks. Okay, break up the monotony. This is very pertinent to a lot of us, because sometimes we are into routines. We are constantly into routines, especially for people who are, on a clock working 9 to 6, 9 to 5. We're constant routine. Try to break the monotony. Try to do something different. Try to do something that would benefit you. And of course, if you are able to benefit another person or a society or the community, that will be wonderful. Finally, get help when you need it. I think this is without doubt the biggest advice all our panelists will give you today. Get help when you need it, because if you know you are going through, as Naz said, a particular funk, then you need to get help. Okay, and it is not wrong. It does not make you a lesser person. It does not make you lesser than who you are. Please do get help. And if you want to know more, please feel free to reach out to, I'm plugging this in, our website, or you can get into MMHA's website. They are there to help you. And of course, reach out to anyone you can. All right, everyone. I do hope you had a great conversation today. We have some resources we're sharing with you. These are some of the resources that's available in Malaysia. Laika, I'm quite sure if there is somebody that wants to reach out to you in Philippines, you can always reach out to Laika. You can actually reach her through MSF, for instance. I'm sure they'll be able to assist you as well. But just in Malaysia, these are the resources we have. So you can try to reach any one of them and talk to them, because they do have in-house counselors, and it's free, by the way, so there is no payment. You can just talk to them, give them a call, just talk to them. And I do hope, ladies and gentlemen, you had a great time today joining us here to talk about mental health and resilience building. And I do hope that after this, you will not feel pressured, but you will go out there, lend a hand in any which way you can. So with that, I'd like to say a big thank you to all our panelists. A big thank you to Dr. Andrew Mohanraj from MMHA. Thank you very much. Naz, who's left us earlier. Dina, who joined us and shared a lot. Dina, thank you so much for sharing. And Naz also, because he shared his personal experience that was very difficult. It's not easy, but thank you so much. Bhavani and Laika, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us as well and sharing your expertise and your stories. Thank you so much to our panelists. The person at the back of the back end, I want to say a big thank you to Wendy, all the way from MSF Hong Kong. Thank you, Wendy, for managing all of this for us. And finally, to all of you, a big thank you from all of us, because without your help and without your support, we will not be able to carry on the work that we're doing in the world, in the 70 to 80 different countries that we're in. So thank you very much. Reach us through our website. And if there's any questions whatsoever, do drop us a line. We'd be happy to talk to you. All right. With that, we end today's discussion. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care. Have a lovely afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and we'll see you soon. Probably in March for our next one. I'm plugging that in again right now. I do hope you'll join us in March. Bye.